are live once again. Welcome to Queens of Conversation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Alberta. I'm Coffee.
I'm Tiffany Davis. I'm Cream.
And together we are Queens of Conversations. And we have a lot to talk about today. There's still a lot of things going on in this world. And today, the focus is going to be systemic racism in the Black community. We're going to and before we get into introducing our guests today, we want to acknowledge a few people. And we're going to let Cream start off.
All right. Good evening. It's Thankful Thursday, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity to introduce our awesome guest tonight. But before I do, I want to introduce her wearing our first T-shirt that was sent to us, and it is Positive Impact Podcast. And the Positive Impact Podcast is an organization. Well, it's a podcast. So let me give you a little information about Positive Impact New York. They're established to provide student athletes and their families with support as they transition through the different levels of their academic and athletic journey. The mission of Positive Impact New York is to develop tomorrow's leaders by preparing them academically, athletically, and socially for life in high school, college, and beyond. More specifically, they assist their student athletes and their families with accessing high-quality academic and athletic opportunities by ensuring that they are educated about the NCAA National Collegiate Athletic Association process. They also host the podcast, Positive Impact Podcast. For more information, you can contact Terrell Dozier at www.positiveimpactnewyork.org. So what we're doing is those who are interested, if you want to send us a T-shirt, a mug, or just even a shout out, we will promote your business on our show. So thank you, Positive Impact New York, for what you're doing for all the students and their families. And so our first guest I will introduce.
Wait. I want to do my bandages that I ordered. These wasn't sent to me. I was in my hype last week trying to support all the Black businesses in the whole wide world. And I ordered some Band-Aids. They're called Browndages. And Browndages, they are the color of African American skin. And I don't know if you can see that. They're so cool. There's the website. And these have images of like a little Black boy. They have ones with images of little Black girls, and then they also have the various different skin tones of Black skin. And I also ordered some history cards from urbanintellectuals.com. These are basically some Black history flashcards. I think these are a very good introduction to your grandchildren, children, to learn their Black history, because we all know that it starts at home. And I also ordered, this one was the STEM version, and this one is this is volume 4. I think they have 10 volumes, and this is Black History flashcards. So I want to shout Urban Intellectuals out and Browndages. Thank you. Don't forget to support Black businesses and mind your own Black business.
All right. Thank you, Coffee. Next, we have William Latif Neal. He's a native New Yorker who resides now in San Diego, California. Willie is one of 3 children who grew up in poverty in the Bronx with his single mother and siblings supported by the public welfare system. Growing up, Willie has experienced poverty firsthand and the conditions that come with poverty. Despite these challenges, he was the first in his family to attend college and earned his bachelor's degree in education with a minor in multicultural students, master's degree in reading, and an advanced degree in educational leadership. He has been in education for over 20 years and has served as a teacher, reading specialist, curriculum coordinator, vice principal, and principal. He is also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and was awarded Community Activist of the Year in 2018, an honor award given him by the San Diego Blue Heart Foundation. With dreams of opening his own school, He wants to educate our community to empower them to identify systems of oppression, racial injustice, and inequalities, and use that knowledge to become game changers, aka agents of change. Welcome. Next, we have Dr. Frederick Ingram Jr. He's one of our returning guests. He's an expert of graduate enrollment and diversity, equity, and inclusion. He is a qualitative researcher who grounds his research in critical race theory. He also holds faculty appointments at American University and Radford University. He focuses his research on the lived experience of African American graduate students enrolled at PWI, predominantly white institutions. He's a published scholar and a contributing author of No Ways Tired, The Journey for Professionals of Color in Student Affairs, Volume 2, which was published in 2019, An Act of Courage, providing space for students of color to express their feelings of disconnectedness in 2020. He has also published several articles for Blavity and diverse issues in higher education. Dr. Ingram is available for guest lectures and panels with a strategic focus. Next, we have Nikki Gary.
Hi.
Okay. Nikki is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, one of our essential workers who works tirelessly as a nurse. She resides in North Carolina, where she is a strong community activist. Thank you, panelists, for joining us.
Thank you, Pam.
Well, welcome back, Fred, and welcome, Nikki and Willie. I'm connected to all of you in some kind of way. Nikki is family. Willie and I went to college together. Ooh, Jesus, how many years ago?
Too long ago.
Oh, a long time ago.
Back in 19, yeah, I won't tell everybody.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Count.
But you know, Mobile Mustang, and you know, Fred is a returning guest, and he's a Utica native. And thank you all once again for participating in this very important topic we like to discuss. And it's systemic racism in the Black community. There's been a lot of, apparently around the world, there has been a lot of gun violence. There was like 106 people shot in Chicago. There were 9 people shot in Syracuse, New York. And I believe there was a shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina, where approximately 4 people have died from a shooting. And with this violence in our community, it's stemming different emotions from different people, different reactions from different people. And I'm often getting that this Black on Black crime. And hearing that, yeah, I know, well, that term Black on Black crime, it really irks me. But I'm learning to not take things personal anymore, because everybody can feel the way they choose. So Nikki Gary, she's my sister-in-law. She posted something on her page, on her Facebook, and me and her began to have dialogue. And the one thing I don't want this to be a negative conversation, because I really want to understand her point of view and where she was coming from when she posted this. So you posted something, Nikki. You posted something like, and I didn't quote you. This is what I summarized. You posted something like saying that Black lives can't matter until they start mattering to us. And I want to know, what did you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I am for Black Lives Matter. And I am passionate about people, our people. And when I posted it, it was because I am so over Black people. Like, I'm over us. At a point that the incident happened in Charlotte. And when I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, a white person went into this crowd and shot all of those people. And that was before I got the whole story, because they were celebrating the Juneteenth. And then when I realized that it was Black people that did that, I was angry. You know, we're celebrating our freedom, But at the same time, someone can do something so horrific during that celebration, and it was us. We did that, and that was upsetting to me. So when I made the post, I knew it was going to piss a lot of people off. People are not speaking to me because of that, and I can't get them to understand that I am for Black lives. But we have to be for Black lives also, not only when the other races are harming us and causing injustices. We have to be for Black lives all around the board. And that's where I was going with that post. Not that I was against Black lives. It's just that I get so sick of hearing Black Lives Matter, but then just 30 miles from me, they killed a little girl yesterday, 6 years old. And we didn't have those type of crimes here. We don't have murders, and I don't live in those situations because I live in the country, and now it's getting to be closer to home where they're at the store getting ice cream, and somebody shoots up the car with 4 children, 1 dies. So I know I made a big stink about that, but that's my position on that post murder.
Okay, and you have every right to express yourself, right? But with social media and with everyone being emotionally connected to the Black Lives Matter movement, I responded and said something as this. I said something like, if I tell you crime in our community is part of systemic racism, would you believe me? And I got a lot of response from that. Some people said yes, some people said no, some people said maybe. So, and what I want people to understand, there's always going to be crime, right? Mm-hmm. No matter what. There was crime when Jesus was roaming the earth. The people was committing crimes way back then. If you live in a predominantly Black area, crime is going to be committed by people that look just like you. I live in DC. It's a highly Black populated area. Is changing, but still a lot of Black people here. But the crime that I see is mostly through committed, through this word I learned from Fred, through intergroup violence. And my goal, and since I've learned that, I started doing some reading, I started educating myself. And you didn't technically say Black on Black crime, but that's what a lot of people are saying. And my goal is to educate, empower, and empower. So to me, Black on Black crime is a fallacy. I mean, it's false. It's a term that has been coined to specifically for Black people to create feelings of self-hatred and disunity within our race. And it's a tactic to divide and conquer. And when you posted that, I kind of felt that. I was just like, oh, this we can't do right now. Black people, we're united right now. We're motivated. We got to stay focused on this Black Lives Matter. It doesn't mean that crime in our community is not important. It's 110% just as important. But when we marching to change policy and in our police force, protesting is what we do. To handle intergroup violence within our community is going to need to be handled a totally different way. And that's the understanding I want to bring people. So I'm going to go to my expert, Dr. Frederick Ingram. I'm going to ask him to please explain what systemic racism is.
So I think my name is spelled wrong there, but it's okay. Two E's. It's 2 E's. It's an E after that D. But no, I think you hit it on. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, which is a fallacy. And I think that, first of all, we gotta, in order to understand systemic racism, we have to understand systematic racism. And those 2 words been kicking everybody's ass for the last few months, right? Systematic racism is essentially the building of systems that will then cause there to be a lacking in a particular space. So systematic racism would be the slave, chattel slavery and that sort of thing, right? They were very strategic in building that to keep a particular group of individuals burdened down and oppressed, right? So that's systematic racism. Systemic racism is what we're currently living in, right? Where these systems have been put into place to keep us from doing particular things, right? To keep us from getting loans and mortgages, right? To keep us from being at the best schools and receiving the best work, to keep our Black educators out of the classroom, to keep us out of law school, to keep us out of medical school, and all these different barriers that are in place. That's systemic racism. And that's the difference between the two that I think a lot of people fall on. But in reference to your point, Black on Black crime is not a thing. It is literally a talking point used by white supremacists to counter your argument of racism. It's what they use when you start talking like we're talking now. You start spitting facts and you start saying that the umbrella for all of our issues is racism and it is white supremacy. That is not a guess. It is not an assumption. It is not speaking from feeling. It's a fact. All of these things are built directly out of the umbrella of racism. You get misogyny, you get homophobia, you get sexism, you get poverty, you get all of these things from this umbrella of white supremacy. And folks not understanding that is why they keep going to the concept of Black on Black crime. And to your point, I totally understand the frustration, but you also have to understand the communities of color, specifically Black communities, are intentionally oppressed. So when people are in a situation where they are forced to survive and thrive, you're going to see that more. White people don't have white on white crime, although they do kill each other at a higher percentage. You don't see that, right? 85%. You don't see that traditionally because they are privileged, right? They have access to resources that we don't have. So you're not going to see them robbing stores in broad daylight and shooting up houses for drugs. You're not going to see that because they have the resources to not need to do these things. And I think that you cannot use your lens of what you see and try to say, well, the Native people don't do this, or the Indian folks don't do this, or the Latinx folk don't do this. You ain't part of that community to be able to speak to what they do and don't do, right? Now, our crimes are more prevalent because the news intentionally focuses on that. If the news focused on the 85% of white people that killed other white people, you would then be saying, wow, they really do commit crimes at the same rate that we do and sometimes higher. But you got to look at the criminal justice system that's flawed, right? That is intentionally used to disenfranchise our group. And so you're going to get more Black people arrested. You're going to get more Black people incarcerated. And it's going to make it seem as if we're committing crimes at a higher rate. That is a white supremacy talking point, and it's intentional. So to fully understand why these things exist, you have to understand why, you know, the embedded nature of white supremacy and the hold that it has on just our existence. Everything you do, everything that we have done, everything that we see has remnants of white supremacy. And to discount that or to not understand the roots of that is why there are so many people who will spit this perspective of Black on Black crimes when it's really not. It's not a thing. Stop saying it, everybody.
Please stop saying it. Thank you, Willie. Do you want to, touch up on that as well?
I did want to touch base on that because having been a product of, as they would say, the ghetto, the oppressed people, I've witnessed this day in and day out. And anytime, you create a ghetto or you create conditions for a particular ghetto, then you're going to have to deal with the issues that come with it. And this Black on Black crime, it's a proximity thing. If we were going to Hispanic neighborhood, you would see the same thing. If you were going to an Asian neighborhood, you would see the same thing. But nobody's talking about those things because when you start throwing Black on Black crime into the mix, it's only to hijack the momentum that we have. You know what I'm saying? When we look at Black on Black crime in terms of percentage, in terms of race, we're talking about a small percentage of people obviously committing a lot of crime, but we still have a whole larger percentage of Black people who are not committing crimes and who are still constantly, consistently being oppressed by the system. So thank you, Dr. Ingram, for pointing out the differences between systemic racism, which is what we're dealing with now, and the system of racism that has been developed over years and years and years. And we haven't figured it out. We haven't figured it out. One of the things that, or one of the goals that I hope to achieve when I open up my school is to be able to teach children how to, not only identify these systems, but also to understand them. Because until we understand it, when we start talking about things like the art of war, when we want to start, fighting against these systems. We have to understand the system and somewhat participate in it, you know what I'm saying, in order to make the change that we want to create. So one of the things that you're going to hear from me in terms of today is educating our people and getting them to understand how important it is for them to get out and vote, because people think that their vote doesn't matter. And when you adopt that mentality, what you're doing is you're counting yourself out. You're counting yourself out. So we have to, we have to educate our people and empower them and help them understand where they came from. I know I'm going off on Black on Black crime, but I don't want to. I'm choosing deliberately not to even discuss that, because to me, I'm gonna just I'm gonna rest there. That's
Right. And so, I had talked to Nikki, prior, and the first thing she said, "Bird, don't call me with this. Don't call me with this." I said, "I ain't gonna go for that." I was like, "No, we need to have a conversation, because I don't want these negative emotions to take over our movement, right? And we're not the only ones that's feeling this. And nobody wins. When the family feuds, right? Nobody wins. So I want, right now we're focused, we're motivated, and I wanted to have the conversation because there's other people that feels the same. There's a lot of people that feel the same way that you do, Nikki. But again, our fight for crime in our community and our fight against police brutality, they're one and the same, but two different fights. We got to fight them differently. Go ahead,
well, first of all, I never mentioned Black on Black crime. My post was that we have got to start saying Black Lives Matter if they really don't matter to us. And then people that come in it took it to the Black on Black crime.
Right.
But I do know that, crime is crime. It's going to be committed everywhere. But I think as a people, and what really angered me the most was these things have been going on. Our people have been mistreated. And now we have the world's attention. And they're taking that attention from, people that they knew this was going on, but it didn't matter. But now we got the world's attention and they're tarnishing it, because now they're not talking about the protests. They're talking about the shooting in Chicago. They're talking about the shooting in Charlotte. So while we have this platform, we need to use this platform to move forward. And
Nick, I want to challenge you.
Oh God, no.
No, I'm not attacked. I don't attack Black women, so I wouldn't do that to you. But I attack white people. But I wanted to say specifically that I hear you and I acknowledge what you're saying, but I need you to have a different perspective. And I want you to understand that if you look at how powerful these protests have been since George Floyd's passing, his murder, we have had protests every single day for the last month. And because of the protests and the civil unrest, look how much change has occurred. They finally fired Breonna, one of Breonna Taylor's murderers. That's not all they need to do, but it's what they're starting there, right? Those cops that killed Ahmaud Arbery, right? And excuse me, not the cops, the vigilantes and the guy who recorded, right? They're under arrest.
They got indicted.
Yep, they got indicted today. The cops that murdered the brother in Atlanta, right? So these protests, right? These protests are effective, right? They're taking down all of these statues of the slavers, right? They're taking them down, not just here, across the world. So when you think about that and think about how powerful this movement of fighting for and acknowledging Black lives is having, what do white people who don't agree with that do? They have to cause a distraction. So although you think that they're taking away from the platform of Black lives, they're absolutely not. The media is doing exactly what whiteness allows them to do, and that is to cause there to be a distraction. Just like Black on Black crime is a distraction from us talking about police brutality and white supremacy, them choosing to talk about crimes that are happening in particular communities is a way for them to say to us, Black lives don't matter because look, they're killing each other. Exactly what you just said. That's what they want you to be saying. So it's effective in that way. So you can allow them and their ideas to penetrate what you know to be true, right? So it's not to tell you that your feelings and your rage and your frustration are not justified, but I'm trying to get you and all of us to think differently about this, because we have to understand the context of the media, the context of the political structure, and the context of white supremacy and whiteness in a way that it is intentionally done. It's been done this way since 1619. They're intentionally doing it because they want us to be distracted from the progress that we are making, right? They want us to be distracted by the fact that they are lynching brothers and sisters across this country. And they want you to focus on a shootout, right? As opposed to like the fact that they are still killing people. The video that came out the other day, I'm not sure when it happened, where the young man, where they body slammed the older gentleman. I didn't watch the whole video, but I saw clips of it, right? And the young man that they killed, who was playing the instrument to the kids and stuff like that. They want us to be distracted from that because they realize how powerful we are. We set this whole country on fire. There were protests and civil unrest in 50 states. We have never seen the likes of that. People in other countries are protesting in acknowledgement of George Floyd, right? So they want us to be focused on something else, but that's part of them co-opting our movement, right? They begin to try to infiltrate it, to derail you and take you off of what your goal is, and we can't allow them to do that.
Right. Nobody wins when the family feuds. and I also want to say that there are this platform to me, Team and I, is for our community, right? We want to be able to have conversations like this for our community, and we can reach far more people through this platform than we can than having a in-person town hall meeting. But I understand with COVID-19, our platform has reached thousands of people, and just like there's people that feel the way that I do, there's a lot of people that feel the same way you do, and it's okay to feel that way because those are your true feelings. So my next question is going to be, what can we do about crime in our community? What can be done about crime in our community? I'll start with you, Will.
I think, one of the things, I don't have all of the answers, but these are just some of the things that I feel like we can help with. One, we have to, develop better educational systems, because the public educational system is drastically failing our Black and brown children. And without education, it's almost impossible for you to be empowered. And as long as you continue to operate in, the lack of knowledge, then that's where you are. So we have to, my mission, and, I hope I can get some people together, is, to start opening up Black schools for our Black children and our children of color, because we have to become the teachers again. We have to be the storytellers again. We have to empower them again, to let them know who and what they are. Because once we realize as Black people who and what we are, you know what I'm saying, and how this world that we live in would not be in existence without us, then that takes a whole different mind frame, you know what I'm saying? Because right now we have, well, I'm just going to call right now, a captive mind frame, you know what I'm saying? And once we're released from that and we understand who we are, you know what I'm saying? I've been reading a lot of different articles in terms of, since all this has started, in terms of, the whole structure of race and how that was produced and developed to create the division that we have today. And I got that from a white woman by the name of Jacqueline Baudelaire, where she talks about how
Birth of a White Nation.
Yes, exactly. How this system was created, and Blacks was intentionally put down at the bottom, because when we initially came over here as indentured servants, there was interracial relationships. There was all this stuff going on, and they didn't like it. They didn't appreciate it, or they didn't. They had to have somebody that was going to be the scapegoat. So obviously, who did that become? That became us, because they knew how powerful we were and where we came from. When we started discovering things like, we're in our genes. When we start talking about how the black woman is the only one that has the Eve gene, that has every single genetic code for every single race on this planet. When we talk about how the black woman is the only woman that has the hella, well, not the, yeah, the hella gene that helps them to reproduce faster than any woman on this planet. You know what I'm saying? When we start understanding how powerful we are and what we are, and we start getting into the science and the mathematics, and we start getting into what the Moors created, because that's all they did is they stole from the Moors. The Moors were the one who ran this country, ran this world, and they stole from them just like they normally do from anybody else. Is they steal and then they make it their own, and then they put us in they put conditions on us, or they oppress us so that we don't know where we are and where we come from. So we got to start educating people, and we gotta start building ourselves up, and hopefully that will alleviate some of this black on black crime.
Intragroup violence. Nikki,
Oh, I'm down for that.
Did you want to comment on that? Some of the things, like what do you think we can do as a community to help decrease this crime in our community?
I think I told you yesterday, Berta, that I thought that I was starting to have some prejudice. So, because I'm thinking that we need to have our own black schools, and the same thing, but I don't, it's kind of like a feeling that I don't want to have, but those are my feelings. I agree with that. We need our black schools. We need to be able to teach more about us, because in our schools now, they don't teach about us. They don't tell us about the great things that the black people did. I don't know, something is on my screen. But I think also we have to get back to the old way of living. If one person eat, everybody eat. Because right. we see things every day, and we see it so much it become a normal sight. Mm-hmm. And so we don't reach out and we don't respond. I had my first husband tell me, Nikki, you can't save the world, but how can I sit here and throw food away, and I know it's the kid next door that's hungry? Sometimes we have to step in and make a difference in somebody's life. Black people live more selfishly. And that's where we need to start, is to love. We have to love in our communities. We don't have that, because we'll say, oh, that kid is bad. But, why is that kid bad? What can we do to help this kid? Maybe nobody never told him how great he was. Maybe nobody never told him he was a king. And I get really emotional talking about this, because coming from my childhood, being in foster care and being just like not knowing every day what it's going to be. And every child needs stability. If you don't have that stability growing up, you can't live a stable adult life. You can't be a productive citizen. Right. So I think where we need to start is with love in our communities and reaching out to people. Stop shunning people because of drug addictions. Stop shunning people because they have less, and let them know, this is what it is today, but tomorrow can be different. So I think that's my thing on it. I have a love for people, and I think that as a race, we have not lived up to what our ancestors died for, because we've gained so much, and some people, I shouldn't say everybody, some people have forgotten where they came from. Not so much of where they came from, but where grandma came from. Right. Because growing up, Grandma had everybody kid. Aunt Sally kept everybody. Everybody ate. We're not doing that anymore. It's everybody is for themselves.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I love the idea of the black schools. That is, I just think, I think we should have our black everything. We should have our black police department, but then that would cause segregation. But that's how I feel.
But that's okay.
That's okay. And a lot of people feel that way.
That's okay.
Feel that way now.
I was talking
somebody wrote in, very true. We need our children being taught by the folks who can relate to them. My first black teacher that left an impact on me was when I moved to the South. A black principal, actually, and she made me feel so safe and secure. Our children need that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our children only see love at school. They don't, or they feel safe at school because the homes are so broken. But I want to back up a little bit. This morning I was talking to my son-in-law about the systemic racism.
Mm.
And when we go we don't have, it was my husband, my daughter, and my son-in-law. And I said, if you had got a notice that you had to appear in court for jury duty, would you go? Would you go and try to get out of that? And everybody said, yeah. They didn't want to have no parts of it.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a huge problem in our community. A huge problem in our community.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. It is a huge problem. I just wanted to kind of get into why that problem exists. So go ahead, Nikki. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh my. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Nikki. Wait, something happened with your sound. Something happened with your sound. Something happened with your sound.
And so I said, my son-in-law, he said, I just wouldn't want that to be a burden on me. And my daughter, no. They said they just pay you $12 a day. And, I wouldn't want to miss my work money for that. So, but I told him, I said, so you sending a black woman and a black man in there who's not having an opportunity to be judged by their peers.
Right.
Because you have a white person that committed crime, a black person that committed crime. Well, the reason why this black person is getting 50 years and the white person is getting 5 months, everybody's got the white jury, the white judge, the white district attorney, because we don't want to do it. We don't want to be a part. And, we need to start being a part.
I agree.
And breaking down that system.
And that's
what educating ourselves so we have more African American DAs, lawyers, judges, and take that opportunity to be a voice for somebody else. Because we have so many innocent blacks that's going to prison.
Nikki,
so let me let Will follow up. But there's something that happened with your sound. There's something wrong with your sound. There's something wrong with your sound. So I'm gonna go ahead, Will, follow up what you want to say.
I wanted to follow up because one of the things that where's that muffled message from?
I don't know what happened.
Let's see.
Okay.
Go ahead. It's something with Nikki's sound.
So one of the things that I wanted to point out as to, why people aren't engaging in their government responsibility is because of a lack of trust. They don't trust the system. The system has failed them numerous times. They've had nothing but negative experiences. Well, I won't say nothing but negative, but lots of negative experiences with the system. So they're afraid to interact with the system that doesn't support them, that doesn't fight for them, that doesn't protect them. And unfortunately, because they don't participate in that system, our brothers and sisters end up spending more time in prisons. Not that they set the sentences, but if there were truly a jury of their peers, then there would be some cultural relevance in that particular group to understand why people are doing, or why Black people are doing the things that they're doing. And white people, they enjoy their privilege, so they're not going to do anything to jeopardize that for them.
Right.
So I want to chime in. One, I think I want to correct a few things. One, it's not prejudice, Nikki, for you to want to see us to have Black schools. I want us to be. I always say words mean things, and they do. So I want to be very mindful of the words that we use in reference to particular things. Wanting to see Blackness and wanting to see Blackness in its full form, and wanting to have our children educated in that and having our children taught is not a prejudice. It is not a bias, and Black people can't be racist, right? Now, what we do need is exactly that, because no one can teach our kids better than us. The best white teacher can't teach our kids better than we could, because of the fact that there is no relatability in that space. She doesn't have the culture, or he doesn't have the cultural competency or the cultural context to fully understand and to be able to engage with those students in that way. And it's not prejudice to want that. That's actually the way that it was in the beginning before Brown v. Board, if y'all know about that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the answer to policing is not Black police. I want us to dispel that rumor as well, right? Okay. Policing was built from white supremacy. Police were originally the slave capturers, right? They were the ones who brought back the fugitives and all of that sort of thing. So policing itself from that point into slavery turned into the prison industrial complex and all of that. So to have this concept that putting Black people in it is somehow going to make it better is a really skewed perception that I need everybody to get over. So that's the first thing. The second thing is Black people are some of the worst when it comes to respectability politics. And when you put Black people in positions of power and Black people in positions of authority who have not decolonized the way that they think about a lot of things, they begin to enact white supremacy on their own people.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have to be white to uphold white supremacy and to push white supremacy like narratives. And that's exactly what people do policing, because policing was not built for us to be the executors of the law. Policing was built for us to be the victims of that law. So putting a Black person there to then expound upon or to better perpetuate whiteness and white supremacy is not making it any better. Policing in its current state and the way that it currently is needs to be completely abolished. And we need to come up with a new system that is equitable for everybody, right? You cannot, I don't care how many Black cops you place into a system. If you look at most of those people, they begin to exhibit and push forth respectability politics and begin to look at their own people like they're less than, because that's the system that they begin to integrate themselves in, so that way they can fit in. So I think that we got to be really conscious of the way that we describe things and word choice, because words mean things. And I say this all the time. And I think we better have an understanding of what we're talking about before we start agreeing to stuff. It's also one of the things I was saying about as far as being performative, right? Like, I don't need another Black Lives Matter mural. I don't need another street named after Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. That's bullshit to me, because essentially what I need to see is policy changing. What I need to see is that cops who have bad history with violence towards particular communities of color are no longer with a badge. I need to see these people losing their and their retirements and their right to carry arms. That to me is policy change. Then you are telling me that you fully understand why Black Lives Matter, and you're fully teaching me and telling us that you understand our struggle and you understand how they have had open season on our bodies. When you do that, then I'll buy it. But for me, I don't need to see a painted mural. For some people, it's a start level of social media Black people getting off on that. That does nothing for me. It's very performative. You want to change my perspective on how you are and how you treat us, do it by changing policy, right? The fact that it took 104 days for one of the killers of Breonna Taylor to get fired is insane. Yes. Right? The fact that young man Elijah took 4 months ago that he was killed, or however long ago that was, and we're just now finding out about it. Like, that is insane to me. But go off with your painted sidewalk.
First of all, you're not going to talk about my mayor like that. That's what you're not going to do. That's what you're not going to do. Okay? And my soror. That's what you're not going to do today. Okay.
Anyway. If I can just jump in here for a bit,
go ahead.
Beginning of all this, well, let me provide some background, not to get morbid or anything about it, but so back in January, I'm generally a very active person when it comes to issues of our community. I used to be there, but in January, my sister passed away, and now I have her 2 kids, and like I've been in this space, like, oh my gosh, like, what can I do? Like, I can't just run out and go to a protest now or bring the kids with me to a protest because I don't know what's going to happen when I'm out there. And my first responsibility is to protect them. So I've been like very, very conflicted with, how do I participate, being that I can't get on the street. But so from that frustration and from that anger, I learned that, people are going to protest in a variety of ways. And each of those protests have a particular meaning to our cause. They need to be more organized and more structured towards one goal, because we have to be really careful, because one of the things that always happens to us is that our movements get hijacked and then they dissipate.
They tried it. Mm-hmm.
The same stuff rises up again, like this police brutality, which we've known has been going on for years, ever since the overseer became the officer. Then we know that we have to just, oh my gosh, this thing is so frustrating. So I'm just like learning so much and expanding. So I've learned through my conflict not to necessarily point the finger at how other people are protesting, be it if I agree with them or not.
Right. I'm the same way. Like I'm usually very, I am involved. This is my protest by educating, empowering, and embracing people. This platform was created for that very reason. I participated in the Gina 6 protest. That was my experience. And I wasn't going down there because COVID-19 was my first distraction from it. I wasn't on all of you. They got COVID-19. That's number one. Number two, you're right. People can protest in different ways. And I think that, again, right now, we have, as Black people, there's a momentum, and I'm part of that momentum. Like, I'm supporting the Black businesses. I'm creating platforms. I'm reading up on racism. I was going to have an expert on gang relations here today. And because I thought systemic racism was the reason why people should be working. And he came to me and he was just like, no, he said, I don't think I can go on your platform. And I was just like, well, why? And then he broke down what gang violence was. I was like, oh, so I'm educating myself every day. I'll have him on at a later time, so we'll understand the gang culture and why things are happening that way in Chicago. But what I've learned from him was outstanding. I'm just like, oh my God, and this threw me for a total loop. And that's why I was like, crime in the Black community is not going to go away. It's always going to be crime. But my goal is for us to not lose focus on this Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter movement. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep supporting one another. We have to continue to give one another grace. We have to continue what I don't know. Like I've learned several things from Fred. I don't say riots no more. I say civil unrest. I don't say Black on Black crime anymore. I say intergroup violence. And then on top of that, I read and I'm reading, trying to get a little bit more understanding of whatever it is that I'm trying to get out to the people. So my next question, you got anything to say, Cream? We talking too much? Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, So my next question would be, how do we begin to tackle the systemic racism as a culture / community?
I think the first thing we need to do is fully understand our voting power, right, and our buying power and our staying power, and everyone keeps trying to push this argument of like voting doesn't matter. But if your vote doesn't matter, why do you think they try so damn hard to suppress it, right?
Mhm.
So like I need people to first understand that they're not moving voting polls from black precincts because your vote doesn't matter and you're not coming. They do that because they are afraid of what your vote would do. Like I need people to get that. Anytime someone said my vote doesn't matter, I don't want to talk to you anymore. In fact, ever again. Unfriend me, unfollow me, block my number. I'm so serious. So like that's the first thing. I think we also have to also understand like where we give our money to and where we invest. I don't know. Everyone keeps saying we need to bring back the black community and buy back black communities and stuff like that. And I hear that, but also white supremacy isn't going anywhere. Whiteness and white manning isn't going anywhere. And Black Wall Street was a buying up the black block, right? That was a very real thing. And look what happened there. Central Park was a black community before they tore it up, killed all them people, and put Central Park there. So people who say like we need to do this, that, and the third, I'm like, I don't think you fully understand that we've done that. Our ancestors have done that. They have done that. And the thing that took all of that was white supremacy. So until we figure out a way collectively as a world to disempower whiteness, white supremacy, and those who seek to divide and conquer and destroy us, we are always going to be in this space where we get another situation of a bombing of a black neighborhood because it was too successful and they built too much wealth. So I think you cannot do those things until we get to the root of this. We got to get Mitch McConnell out of here. We got to get AG Barr out of here. We got to get Trump out of here. We got to get every single white person who allowed this man who's in office as an elected official, allowed this man to take babies, Latinx babies from their mothers and rip them from their mother's arms and then cage them, right? And have these children being molested and raped and violated and kids dying at the border simply because they're trying to live and be in a better place. The fact that white people have this concept that people don't belong here. You don't belong here, bro. But you have this idea and this audacity to determine who belongs here and who doesn't and who's a benefit to you and who isn't. Until we completely get a hold of that, this whole concept of building black communities, like you miss me with that. We're not there yet. We need to first figure out how to disempower these people who seek to kill us. Because even if we put a gate up on our community, once we go outside that gate, it's still going to be open season on our black asses. So you got to first understand, how do we put ourselves in position to get these people out of position? Once you do that, then we can talk about, let's build, black communities and completely black neighborhoods and completely black stores and all of that stuff. Then you could talk about doing it. But until we handle this issue, the issue that they refuse to talk about, the issue that continues to perpetuate itself in the 400 plus years of our existence in this country, like we can't, we just can't. And I don't say that as a naysayer of the importance of black business, because it's very important and I too support. But I'm saying talk about entire communities. They're always going to be disenfranchised in some way, because white people in this country and white supremacy are always going to find a way to dismantle any forward progress.
So we got a comment from one of our white guests, I guess you could say. And he was Larry Tenori. Exactly. I've been in politics for 20 years. Their biggest fear ever is that blacks come out to vote in huge numbers. Okay. Go ahead, Will.
Larry, I need you to capitalize on being black.
Well, I just want to, while I agree with Dr. Ingram, I just want to offer a little pushback in terms of the thought process. I think with white supremacy, and this white supremacy has been in effect for over 400 years. We don't have time to wait a whole nother 400 years to dismantle something that has been going on for 400 years. So I think at the same time, while we're educating and learning about the current system, we have to go to our black community and learn from our ancestors and what happened and what went wrong, and how can we now put this in, protect ourselves as we're learning how to infiltrate, or better yet, dismantle the system of white supremacy. I just would hate to see a whole nother 400 years to get to a point before we start developing our black communities again, because it's going to take a while to dismantle the system that white supremacists develop, and they privilege them. They're not going to let it go easily.
And you're right, brother. But let me ask you this: so, in the event, let's just say hypothetically, right? Like you know that once we do this, if we don't dismantle all these other systems, they're going to overpolice those communities, right? They're going to find ridiculous, like look at now, like everybody in the world is talking about this increase in fireworks and communities of color over the last few weeks, right? Everybody's talking about that, and what does that mean, right? That means that gives open season for the police to enter into those communities and to overpolice those communities and stuff like that. Now, everybody's been in the house. And the amount of and the expense of fireworks, they're not cheap. So how are they getting there? The same thing with drugs in the Black communities. The cops and the government put them there. Now, it'll be one thing if we're talking about one city and one particular borough in the city, then that'd be different. But you got people complaining in Black communities all across this country are talking about this. That is by no accident, right? No, so in thinking about that, they find ways, right, to legalize their actions, right? They find ways to, oh, look, they can't control themselves. They can't do stand and third, and they over police. So if you go ahead and create a Black community before we have handled these situations, we're putting ourselves in jeopardy. I'm all for us having that. And I'm not saying 400 years, I'm not waiting 400 years either. But I think that we have to how we get rid of these people who are making these laws, right? They roll back most of what Obama did in those 8 years and a few months of who being in office, right? So we got to talk about that. We got to talk about the people. They literally let this man like mess up the elections and do all sorts of illegal partnerships with other countries and did not vote this man out of office. Everybody who did that needs to go, right? So until we start making those moves, we can't talk about building up no entire community and think that we're not putting our brothers and sisters in even more harm's way. So I'm for it. I think we need to do that. I think we start with Black schools. I think we do those things, right? But I think creating entire communities that you're placing people in harm's way, I'm not for it until we create actual systemic change.
Right. And again, I agree with you. But my question is, how do we do those things currently so that we're not waiting for these systems to be completely dismantled? And how do we protect ourselves in our communities as we are combating these systems? So we have to figure out a way, in my opinion, how do we do those two things concurrently rather than waiting for one to implement another?
And that's my question too. I ditto that question. So how can we encourage our listeners, encourage one another to basically renew our minds as we move forward with this? I know it's not just one exact thing, but if we could share some things to encourage all of us, like how should our mindset be? I know we talked about love, we talked about Black schools and everything, but right now, what could we do right now to start this momentum?
So I think that's a phenomenal question. I think Berta touched on it. First, what did Berta say? I didn't know that saying Black on Black crime was wrong. So now I say intergroup violence, right? I didn't know that saying riot was wrong and we say civil unrest. First, it starts with unlearning things that we were taught, right? That make us look down on each other, make us feel that particular members of our group that operate differently are less than us, right? So I think we first got to start there. We got to first understand how to unlearn all of the harmful things that we were taught, right? We got to first unlearn these harmful practices to relearn how to love, the love piece that y'all were talking about, right? We got to unlearn how to hate each other first before we can learn how to love each other, right? You can't just pile love on top of a mindset that hasn't been shifted and changed. So I think we got to start there. Those are the bare bones. That's the foundation of it all, right? And I think once we get there and we start doing that work, and everybody's doing that work, or at least those of us who want to see change start doing that work, then we can begin to see difference, because then you start moving collectively. Right? I think there was mention of everybody being selfish, but I don't want to call us selfish. We have, as a people, been forced to just survive. Like, it's not that I don't want your baby to eat, but I got 4 of my own babies, right? Like, unfortunately, I don't have enough for your baby because I got to feed my 4, right? And so it's not that we don't want to, right? It's just that we don't have the option to. And I think that understanding and like Berta said, give grace in those spaces. If you happen to be one of those Black families that have enough to share with somebody else, you need to be doing that. But if you only have enough for your people to live, that's okay too. And we shouldn't tear you down or berate you or make you feel bad because you just don't have, right? And I think that first understanding that we all have different lived experiences. Everybody not a doctor. Everybody don't have a master's degree. Everybody don't own homes, right? Like we don't also have a plot of land of our own. Like that's just not all of our stories. But we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences that we can all benefit from. Mm-hmm. So we got to first start by unlearning how to hate ourselves and each other, to learning how to love ourselves and each other, and you start there, and then everything else you can begin to add on. But we can't go, let's build a city before we first learn that light-skinned people and dark-skinned people are no different.
You got that right.
Television, copy and cream.
I love
it. You guys are so right. This all went by so fast. Dang. But a ditto to what Fred said. I'm so glad that we took the time out, because I was anxious about this conversation, because I was getting too emotionally involved, and I have to learn. I had learned that to stop getting too emotionally involved, because people have the right to feel the way they feel. People perceptions are their reality, and I don't know everything. I've accepted that I don't know everything, and the way I'm handling things, I'm doing more reading. I'm reading my Powernomics. Claude Anderson. I wanted to ask you a question. What do you guys think about creating our own political party? That's being thrown out there too right now.
It is, but it's being thrown at the wrong time. Like people are acting like we got between now and November to create a third party, come with a third party candidate that's going to win. Shut up, man. That's not how we got to focus on getting Cheeto and Chief out, right? And then we can focus on first once we get Biden in office, we can then begin to, because I don't think we've ever truly held our elected officials accountable. We just started assuming, we had this expectation that they owed us. And because they owed us, that they were just going to do right by us instead of keeping the pressure on his neck, whether he's elected or not, right? I think that people tend to ease up once the election ends. And what they got to do is be like, all those things you promised us, all these people you brought in, they need to be on your neck. And that's why I think the VP needs to be a Black person and a Black woman, right? Because I feel like she would be the one that would be like, look, this is what we were promised. This is what was said. This is what needs to get done. Someone who has direct access to the people. And then I think after we get at least part of this out, we can talk about what the creation of a third party looks like. But I just don't see a third party candidate personally winning the election at this point. The way the country is set up with a two-party system, it's going to be a while before we can get a third party that will be able to create that change. I like Stacey Abrams, but I need to see Stacey Abrams on a larger scale before I consider her as a VP. But if she gets the nod, I will 100% support it.
Mm.
Well, I'm going to 100% support whoever gets the nod at this point. I guess thoughts, Will? Can you hear me?
What did you say?
I said your thoughts.
Wow, I have so many. But I always go back to, again, we have to invest in our own communities, and I'm going to go back to having these Black schools, because I'm telling you, like I've seen it, I've witnessed it over the past 20 years in education. They don't write culturally relevant curriculum. They do not talk about all of the contributions that we as African Americans have contributed to this country and basically have built this country. All that is taken out. So if I'm in a school where I'm learning about white supremacy subliminally, if you want to go there, then that's the product that you're going to produce. Or you're not going to produce a product because the kid is not going to see no value in what we're doing, because I'm not learning anything that's empowering me. I'm learning things that's empowering the things around me that I have at this point in time, I have no control over. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, we need to start educating our kids and educating our community and help them understand that until we learn the current system and participate and engage in the current system, we will not be able to dismantle. So a computer technician cannot take a computer apart and put it back together if he doesn't understand all of the parts. So we have to educate ourselves in understanding the current governmental structure in order to dismantle it. So, I'm in full agreement with, the educational piece and, making sure that we are empowered to make the changes that we need to make. We need to understand that our vote does matter. We need to get out there and vote. As Dr. Ingram said, if our vote didn't matter, they wouldn't fight so hard for us not to be there. You know what I'm saying? And we need to do it quickly because there are other things that are affecting our vote right now. Right now, our vote is powerful, but if we do not continue, if we don't educate ourselves and begin to do other things to continue to build our vote is going to wane away. So we have to be active. I mean, and when I start talking about these things, I'm talking about, birth rates in the Black community have declined tremendously. You know what I'm saying? So, why is that happening? You know what I'm saying? Or our young girls are, there are a lot of things.
I just did some reading on that too, and I felt one way, and it changed. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes. Invite me when you have that one, because I'll be a part of that one too.
Yeah, a whole other conversation. Yeah. I was enlightened about that topic too. Well, I thank you. I got the Ice Cold Brothers.
Very funny.
Repping today, I appreciate. That's what y'all not gonna do. That's what y'all not gonna do. That's what
fine, y'all.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. I think our goal here today was to, again, educate. I feel educated, be embraced. Our needs, and hopefully some people felt empowered. I feel empowered. I learned something new every time we have these conversations with various experts. Right now we're pushing for Sunday to have this gang expert on Sunday. We're playing with the time. It looks like it's gonna be like around 6 o'clock. He is an educated thug. I hate to say that word. Educated brother. I don't want to say thug. He's an educated street dude. And the way he communicates, everyone can understand it. He's going to appeal to both audiences. And when I tell you I learned so much about gang culture, I was just like, I've been watching gang videos, trying to get a better, more understanding. He's like, watch this video, go to this, go that. And it's a lot. I still don't understand. I mean, I understand it's their culture and they do things for their culture. It's a lot to take in, but I think people need to know so they can understand why these shootings are happening in Chicago and all these different places, and why the increase of gang violence is in our communities. And at this time, there's not much we can do about it. So we got to stay focused and keep pushing on breaking down the system that's hindering us to move forward. So that's my goal. Thank you, Dr. Frederick Ingram. Thank you, Dr. Neil. I love you all.
Love you too.
Thank you to our audience. Thank you to our audience. I'm sure I'll call you back again for something else.
We sure will.
Let me know. All right, y'all be good.
We don't mind. We used to be. I am Alberta and I'm Coffee.
I'm Tiffany Davis. I'm Cream.
And together we are Queens of Conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for all the comments as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in and all your comments. We appreciate it. We share some as we can. So keep with the comments.